In today's show, I'm going to be talking to a guy who's been a hero of mine for some time. When I first came across his name, I'll tell you in a minute who it is, he was on screen in Dubai in a packed out auditorium where he didn't actually have to turn up in person. Just sending a video was more than enough for people to come along and find out what he was going to speak about. In those days, it was all about internet marketing, but the things he's done since then and during are incredible. He's had the world's #1 app that if you pressed it, it basically made noise like you'd made a ka-ching. He also is the writer of 14, 15 on the way books. He's in the NFT space with one of the world's top podcasts on blockchain and cryptocurrency. He's an incredible speaker, an incredible thought leader, and that's why he's up next on Speak on Stage. This show is dedicated to teach you how to jump and grow wings on the way down, and there's very few who can do it as well as Joel Comm. Joel, how are you?
Hey, Dave, man, it's so good to see you. And I have to make a correction. I did make a ka-ching button app, but that was not the sound app that got to #1 in the world. Do you remember
Okay.
what it was?
No, I don't, but you'll have to tell me.
It was a novelty app, and I'll give you hints. It made a bit of a stink.
Oh, it was a fart app.
Yep,
That's the one. I knew it was something like that. I thought I'd go with a ka-ching one because this is going out on LinkedIn. I thought I'd keep it clean. But you're right, the fart app
yeah.
is much better.
That's okay. I mean, there's enough people that found it funny then, and still today. It's been in the App Store in multiple iterations for 15 years now,
Wow.
and people still buy it every day. I've got to imagine that to date we've served well over 1 billion fart sounds.
That's a lot of gas. And in terms,
It's a lot of laughter too, right? It's a lot of smiles. It's bringing joy to people, and that makes me happy to know that whether they're regular folks like us, at home playing with it, or whether it was a celebrity like George Clooney or Robin Williams, pranked Lance Armstrong with it when they were both still with us. It warms the cockles of my 12-year-old heart.
I don't doubt it for a second, but here's the thing, right? When you've got an app that's sold as well as that, and so many people are using it, celebrities, just everybody, and it's still going 12 years later, are you still going to
15,
change your bank account?
15 years later. Yeah,
15
it
years.
doesn't make a lot right now, but a few $1,000s a year comes in for myself and my partners, and I think our YouTube videos make some money as well. It's not something that we're actively working. It's just one of those apps from 15 years ago, the first year that the iPhone App Store was open, that still persists. And how many apps can have those kinds of legs?
It's very impressive. It's one of those set it and forget it things. I think that the only things that do the same kind of thing is a Christmas #1 single, where every year, if it was big enough, you're guaranteed to supply more than your pension just by having those hits coming back again.
I tell you, all I want for Christmas is some new Christmas music.
They just don't make it like they used to because they make good stuff now. But in those days, there were 1 million sellers. So if you had a Christmas #1, then you could retire on the back of that. Nowadays, the selling of singles, in fact, you don't even sell them like that. You don't make albums the same way. You have a couple of tracks, unless you're Taylor Swift, and you've got to make
I'll
your money.
tell you.
But I want to tell you, I want to jump into the thought leadership position that you have been a thought leader for such a long time, and I want to decipher what drives you and others to want to position yourself to do things that makes the world different. When you're a thought leader, does it lead back to your childhood? Was it a fact that you wanted to fit in with something, or you didn't feel you fitted in? Or was it the fact you wanted to do your own thing anyway, and that's what drove you to come up with so many different ideas and so many times that you position yourself at the head of a food chain?
Yeah, I think it's both and. I didn't, I was a nerd. I still am a nerd. only as a boy, as a teenager, as a nerd, you get bullied, right? And you get ostracized. And so, being a computer geek at 16 years old, I'm not going to prom. I'm not going out with girls. I'm not in the, playing football. I'm not in the cool kids club. I got my nerdy friends and we do our nerdy things. So that's definitely true. But it also, I think taught me to pursue that which I'm interested in. I've never thought of myself as a thought leader. I've never thought of myself as a guru, a goober maybe, but not a guru. I'm just a guy who likes to play with the toys. Here I am. What have we been talking about? Computer games and VR and AR and technology. I've just always been fascinated by technology, and I like to play with the toys. And so when I see something that's interesting to me, I want to go mess with it and see what I can do with it. Well, when I discovered the internet and that I could put up a website, I didn't go, oh, I can put up a website and we're going to make a lot of money. It's like, no, I'm going to put up a website and I'm going to do this cool thing and we're going to do software reviews for parents. Oh, we can make money doing that? Well, let's see. Oh, I'm going to put games online. Hey, my webmaster says, here's a guy who's got a game site, but nobody's really using it. You should write him. And I write him and we partner up and we launch one of the world's first multiplayer internet online game sites called springerspan.com, which we turned into classicgames.com and got acquired by Yahoo back in 1998 and became Yahoo Games. I didn't set out necessarily to do that. I just, when I discovered the iPhone and heard that they were opening up the API so that you can make apps, I'm like, we got to make apps. Let's make this fun one that makes farts. And then combine that with marketing, know-how, publicity, and the thing blew up to the top of the charts again and again and again and again. I play with a toy, and I invariably, if I like it, I master it. And once you master something, what do people do? They come to you and they say, how did you do that? When I started making, $1,000 a day in passive income with Google AdSense, how did you do that? Oh, I'll write a book. Now you want me to come speak on it? Now you want a physical book? Oh, look, it's a New York Times bestseller because there's so much interest in it. Same thing with crypto. I discovered crypto and said to my buddy Travis, hey, he said to me, well, when are we going to start a show? And he was kind of joking. I said, let's do that. That sounds like fun. Well, a combination of our experience as broadcasters and our marketing know-how and the timing in the marketplace, the show just took off. Never could have planned it. But it's always been a result of taking risks, following my own curiosity, and trusting the process, which, interestingly enough, is the topic of my 15th book that came out in 2018 called The Fun Formula. That's the formula, and it's worked for me again and again and again and again.
Well, I'm going to show how geeky I am now. I'm going to show you a couple of your books here. There you go. Fascinating. But here's the thing. How many times have you done the thought leadership thing? I know it's not called that. You've created something and it's missed. And does it bother you if it doesn't take off?
Well, I think any time you put your heart and soul into something and it doesn't take off, there's some disappointment. But I never let that get me down. I'm always reminded that Thomas Edison found 9,999 ways to not make a light bulb work, right? Before he got to the 10,000th one, ding, and it worked. And so anytime you're going to take risks and put yourselves out there, you're going to fail. That's normal. So I'm accustomed to failure. I've had more failures in my mind than I've had home runs. But, over the sum total of a 28-year career, I've had probably, 12 home runs, a few of them grand slams, out of the park. And some baseball metaphors here for our American friends and those other parts of the world. I know they're big on baseball in Mexico and Japan as well. So failure is just a natural part of success. And the key is learning to fail fast. If it's not going to work, then be willing to walk away, as quickly as you can and do something else.
How many of your inventions, your plans were just too far ahead of their time, and you've seen that since then it's become the norm, but at the time you were pulling your hair out wondering why people didn't buy into it fast enough?
Only really one. Because usually when you're playing with technology and you come up with a new way to leverage it to create a product, to sell a product, to engage people, to show people a better way of doing things, once you master it, people want to know how you did it. But back in, I want to say 2007 or 8, I started building a technology that leveraged mobile marketing for SMS. So people would subscribe to listing on a web with email only for your cell phone marketing. And we just couldn't get it off the ground. I'll tell you the real interesting lesson I learned there was after I put a solid 6 figures into this thing, we built the technology, we had all the software in place. We couldn't get it to take off. I tried selling the whole thing as a business. Nobody wanted to buy it. I tried selling the software off on its own. Nobody wanted to buy it. And I hung on to it for months, still paying the monthly maintenance to keep things going with our short code. And one day I finally said, that's it, stop it, end it, pull the plug on it. And I thought, Dave, in that moment that I would be so discouraged because I really thought we were onto something there. And instead of discouragement, the moment I decided to pull the plug, it was like a weight was lifted off my shoulders. And that's when I realized this super important fact. I stopped failing the moment I stopped paying for it. When I said, I'm done, the failure was over. It was now a thing of the past, and I felt released to go put my energy towards something else. And so never again will I just keep banging down the door, right? They teach you when you're young that there's no obstacle that can get in your way. And if that door is closed to you, you just keep banging on it. And eventually I realized that's just one door. That is one door. We live in an age where there is more opportunity for anybody to find success than ever before in human history. Ever. Right now, this very moment.
Great.
More opportunity than ever before. There are doors everywhere. But when we get myopic and we just see that one door and I've got to push through and I've got to do that one thing, we miss all of this that is on our periphery. When we stop looking as though it's on our periphery and we evaluate, that's interesting over there. There's a little, that door looks like it might open up easily. That one there's a crack in it. That one over there is wide open. Oh, look, there's a window I can crawl through. There's so much opportunity. And when we get out of our heads thinking that this is the one thing we have to do, the world of opportunity opens up, which is why I've never had a career. I went to school at the University of Illinois and I got a speech communications degree, not because I wanted to be a speaker, but because it was the easiest thing for me to get. In fact, I was terrified of public speaking, terrified. I never wanted to be on stage. When I was in front of the class, I shook with the note cards in my hand. And turns out one of my natural gifts is being on stage and being a speaker. Who knew? Proof that God has just an amazing sense of humor. And so I don't know where I started with that, but hopefully there's something there of value to somebody.
It makes a lot of sense. And here's the thing I wanted to move on to that whole conversation about the failures, the things that work and the things that don't work. Right now, I mean, I almost forgot the fact that you were one of the gurus on Google Ads. I mean, back in the day, certainly. I remember getting your book on it and the stuff you're talking about then. But right now, the world is full of people who are startups of apps. Apps. That's the thing that everybody wants to do, and that getting an investor in and then getting people to buy it and buy into it and all the rest of it. You had a number of successful ones long before apps was a term, really, because you were creating the space, the market for people to be able to do things on their computer, on their phone, long before other people will be able to make them at home. What do you see that people are doing wrong? And what would be your advice to somebody who's a startup to be able to be successful and get to the levels that you've got to?
Well, I don't know which projects are doing something wrong. I do know that most businesses fail. If I was to look at the reason that most businesses fail is a lot of people think that their idea is worth something. Ideas truly are a dime a dozen. Your idea, as amazing as that idea might be, is worthless. What's worth worthwhile and what's worth value is execution on that idea. You take that idea and you make something happen with it. Now you have something of value. And too many people look at what others are doing. They say, "What's working right now? What have people discovered that how can I make money online?" And they're always looking for what others are doing that they can replicate. I've never done that. I've always gone, "What's interesting to me? What brings value to me?" If it brings value to me, odds are it can bring value to others. Once I discover it brings value to my life, then I master it and I teach others how it brings value to them. And I've never been afraid to go, "Wait, nobody's doing that before? Oh, I can't do that." No, I go, "Nobody's done that before. Nobody's done that. I've got to try that. Nobody's done that. There is no roadmap for making this a success. We are blazing a trail." And that's been the story of my career. It's like, let's do things that others haven't done before. And if it works, we're going to lead others into that way. I got into social media early. I wrote the first successful book on using Twitter, for business back in 2008, and showed a lot of people how to use Twitter for their business. And that's really the only way to go is to be a trailblazer. I'm not saying you can't succeed doing a knockoff of something that somebody else has done and putting a little twist on it. I mean, let's face it, there's nothing new under the sun, right? We have all the energy that exists within, our universe right now. And so we're just pulling molecules together and putting them together in different ways. But I would suggest that people take risks and boldly go where no one has gone before.
Only geeks like us would understand the importance of saying things like that, which is fantastic. So, when we're talking about it, one of the things that you and I first discussed at the very beginning, as you're in Puerto Rico, you mentioned you were semi-retired. You're not driven by the same things. Now, is that because you've already got your legacy all done, so people know who you are and what you do? Is it because you're not interested in anything, or does it come to a point of saturation where you say, "I've done as much fighting out there as I want to do. I want to play in my games. I want to chill out, walk my dog, and just have a different world than being out there and being competitive like before."
I think it's a little bit of everything you said there. First of all, I think that we are extremely self-important when we think that we're somehow making a mark that is ultimately going to be fulfilling. Making the mark, itself, having an impact is always fulfilling. But leaving our mark, saying, "Hey, I was here, I was important, I was special." We're all important. We're all special in different ways. Even somebody who, some blue collar worker that just goes to work for 40 years and is working with steel and is providing for his wife and kids. Guess what? To them, he is super important. He's a hero. So, whether or not we reach a lot of people, whether or not we're popular or people think, "Oh, there's something special because they have celebrity status," I'm not impressed by any of that. I'm impressed by character way more than how popular you are, how much power you have, how much money you have. Now, if you want to impress me as a person of power and influence, then show me what you're made of. Show me that power and influence hasn't corrupted you. Now I'm impressed. Now I'm going to have a judgment of you that is favorable. But just winning the popularity contest or having more things than others, that to me is not something that in itself is worthy of respect. So whether or not I'm done doing, having my legacy built, my Wikipedia page that has errors in it that I can't, get corrected because the Wikipedia Nazis, in their mom's basement won't let me change anything. That's it's really irrelevant. Somebody, if we make a mark, how many people 100 years after they're gone are remembered? Well, presidents, some world leaders, some celebrities. How about 200 years? Let's go 500 years. How many people could you name from history 500 years or more? How about 1,000 years? So in the big scheme of things, ultimately, the vast majority of humanity is forgotten. And so, what mark are we trying to leave? Which leads me to part of my philosophy here in Puerto Rico. It's always been do good stuff, right? You may as well do good. God is blessed us with one life, and I think it's important that we be good stewards with that and make a positive dent in the world and the lives of those around us, if for no other reason than good is good. But ultimately, life is a combination of the people that we share our lives with that are important to us and the experiences that we share. And that's, it's definitely not about money. It's definitely not about power. It's definitely not about fame.
Amazing.
So here in Puerto Rico, I'm living my best life that I am able to at this stage of my life. And does that mean that I'm done producing? No, I don't think so, because especially guys, we're so driven, right? We want to create, especially creative types, and a lot of times it's not for the pursuit of money. It's for the sake of creating. I think God has made us creative beings. I mean, He's the most creative being of all. And so we have that light in us to create. And so I'm always thinking, I'm always ideating, I'm working on a couple projects, but I like to, if I'm going to move the needle on something, I want to move it as far as I can with as little effort as possible. That's one of the things I've learned as I got older. The work smart, not hard ethos really is a thing.
I hear you, and I think it's amazing to say that. One of the things I discovered during the pandemic was the importance of being able to just turn around and say, well, what really matters? I learned that being content is as important as being happy, because happy has a gauge which says you've got to someday be sad to feel happy. But if you're always able to go to be content, then you don't have to worry about where that takes you next. But one of the things I realized is I spent a large amount of my life trying to be famous because everybody else does, that celebrity status. And then I think that maybe over the last couple of years, looking at how toxic it is for the big celebrities, I think social media has made it worse than anything. I can't imagine being recognized everywhere I go, photos taken, selfies, people asking questions. So all you've got is privacy when you're at home. I think there's a sweet spot. So you're respected as a thought leader. You're well known when you arrive because people know what to expect because they saw you on the poster, and that's why they buy the tickets. But outside of that, you're completely invisible to all other industries. And I think there's a magic for that. And I think that's really the industry icon, the thought leader is where people should be looking rather than the influencer that's seen and loved and known and hated at the same time by everybody.
Yeah,
Oh,
I can't imagine having that kind of universal fame. I always enjoyed showing up at an internet marketing event or a crypto event where people knew who I was, and you had that selective fame. But then you walk out on the street and nobody knows who you are. So you have that moment of your ego being fed and you being able to pour out and give whatever you could of yourself to those who were there. Because I think we have a responsibility to that. When we're on stage, we're not there for us. We might be there because they think that we are the mouthpiece to be able to say this thing, but really we're there to bring value to everybody who's there to listen. And it could be anybody on that stage. The job is to give value to the people who listen. And in fact, as much as I used to be afraid of public speaking, it wasn't until I realized this, that it's not about me, that it's about them, that I had any stage fright that I had went away, because who am I? What am I? What am I scared of? That I'm going to embarrass myself? That I'm going to fail? That I'm going to stumble? That I'm going to forget? No, I know my stuff. They're there to hear that stuff. My job is to go out there and give them that stuff so that they understand something they didn't understand before, so that they believe that they are able to do whatever it is, this thing that they want to do, to infuse them with inspiration and motivation, and then get up the stage, take my little applause, yay, thank you, get paid, and hopefully they leave. They walk out that door with a piece of something that they will use in their own lives to get closer to where they want to be. And that's the bottom line. We're so temporary, Dave.
isn't it the truth? I remember when it was about 5 years ago. That just shows how long it is when we first connected in Dubai, and we'd never really met before, and we just ended up just talking rubbish forever until the sun went down. It was just an amazing experience, and I find that just now it's oh there you go, look at
I
that.
just
Oh my
found it. I went on the iPhone and I searched Dubai, and it
wow,
was April 29th, 2019.
my goodness, that's
That's
amazing.
when we met face to face for the first time, and you've gotten, there
Oh,
goes my phone. You've gotten grayer, and so have I.
well, more than anything, I went through this period of time where I was getting my hair dyed. And so this lady came around, did all my hair, and then she would dye my beard and stuff in a kind of Barry White weird when Denzel Washington is not that black haired. And I got it all done. But what I found was after about 2 weeks, my own hair grew under it. And it was kind of like weird. So I'd shave it off, and then it'd go suddenly this color. And what I discovered was I started having my Oprah Winfrey thing. We know when you watch Oprah Winfrey's old shows, and when you watch the old shows, because they stack them back to back, one day she's thin, one day she's fat, one day she's young, one day, and so it's this weird thing. So when I was on social media, I started changing just within a month to a younger version of me when it went dark. And so I thought, you know what? Salt and pepper's good enough for George Clooney and Joel Comm. It's good enough for me. So I might as well just settle with that. And this is it. So apart from leaving grey hairs every now and again, it's not bad. And I think growing
Yeah,
old grey is
no.
important, isn't it?
My thing has been, I don't care what color it turns as long as it doesn't turn loose. Hang on, fellas, stay put, stay. And I know guys that have gone completely bald, and they're rocking it like that. So maybe if I started losing it, I would go down that road too. But ultimately, we're not our hair, and we're not our hair color. We
Exactly.
are who we are in here, and even this is all just, this is a temporary earth suit, and one day we'll stop using this to inhabit our spirit, our soul, and it'll have served its purpose.
Well, one of the things I'd just like to add to that whole point you just made is the fact that they're saying that the age we are now, if we look after ourselves, we should make it to about 100 years old, which means that, I mean, I'm about halfway, just over halfway, as you are indeed, because we're not far off each other. That means we've got another couple of different careers ahead of us. Obviously, the nappy stage, we won't talk about that too much. But until then, we haven't aged really. I mean, life goes by so quickly. I think if you're doing the stuff that you love, like the comics, like the music, like the apps, like the gaming, like the laughing, I'm writing the books and connecting and standing on stages, there's no reason why you should ever get old.
No, I agree. We still see ourselves as the person we've grown up with. And so I still enjoy a lot of the same things that I've always enjoyed, starting from when I was a child. And I look in the mirror, and I do a hot take. And I'm like, you're almost 60? You don't look like you're almost 60. You definitely don't act like you're almost 60. You don't feel like it. And I remember as a kid, so I'll look at pictures of my grandparents at 60 and think, wow, that was old. And they looked older, right? Life was harder. People weathered faster. They didn't have the medicine that we have now. And I think you're right. I think 100 will be the new 80. And as long as I can be healthy and have my mind, that's the thing. I've lost parents to dementia, and it's such a tough way to go. So staying sharp, I think part of that is staying active. Part of it is being in a good community. I decided this last year that I was going to drop a bunch of weight because the body does start deteriorating, and if you start getting your organs start going, oh, I'm not going to work the way I used to because you're making me work overtime. That helps age us faster too.
Very true. There's one area I'd like to just embrace before we finish this conversation. And I know that the minute I mention it, we're going to go down a rabbit hole that we might not get out of. Because
Okay.
in the time when we last chatted, AI wasn't really a thing. And now it is. and it's everywhere. The metaverse was a conversation that we were joking about and what was going to happen there. The metaverse has kind of moved to one side a little bit, and Zuckerberg's thrown himself heart and soul into AI. What's your thoughts about AI? Do you think that brings a load of opportunities for everybody? And certainly in the position of it being a thought leader, can you fast track to where you need to be better and easier by using AI as your guide?
Well, I think it definitely is a huge shift. When we look at the competency bell curve, like that, you have people over here that are incompetent and shouldn't be doing a thing in the first place. Then you've got the great middle that they're average at what they do. And then you have those over here that are excellent. With AI, any job or a skill that can be done by AI, if you're not in that top 10% of competency, you're not going to be needed anymore, right? That goes for content writers. That goes for artists in many respects, paid artists. I'm not necessarily talking about people that create art for art's sake. That's always its own thing. But digital art, AI art, I create AI art now, if that's what we're calling it. I can do things with Midjourney and Dolly that I could never, in a lifetime of training, ever do even one picture like to the quality that I see done that I'm creating with AI. So it's a huge game changer, and there's people that are upset about it, and that's fine. Be upset, but I'll tell you this: whining and complaining about it isn't going to serve you at all. It used to be when somebody was no longer necessary for a job because technology came along and did it better. We would say, learn to code, right? You better learn to code. You need to, if flipping burgers ain't going to cut it because they got robots doing it, go to school, learn how to code. Well, it's not learn to code anymore. While certainly there is a need for it, AI can write code as well. So the new go-to should be learn to prompt. The people who understand how to feed in the direction to AI so that it brings out the best results that people are looking for, that's where the value is. There is less opportunity for certain careers than there is because of AI, but at the same time, because of the potential of AI and what it can do, I think, as I said earlier, there's more opportunity today than ever before because of advances in technology. It's just a matter of framing it in a way that we can see the possibilities. What AI does, Dave, is it challenges people to go, what can I do that somebody's not done before? Well, here's all the things that have ever been done. If we encapsulate them right here in this box. But guess what? The world is massive. And when we try to imagine how much has not been done yet, it will always exceed that which has been done. So people need to expand their horizons and their imagination and to, again, boldly go.
I think that on the back of that, we're going to see in the meager 20, 30, 40 years that you and I have left on this planet, I think we'll find that that bell curve will just speed up so much. And we'll end up with Mars and lots of opportunities that were just science fiction before happening in our reality and happening in our real time. But we might be wearing nappies by the time, so we might not want to go. But I do think it's all going to start
Yeah.
happening in the next couple of years.
Is it better? Is it worse? I don't know. We just know that it is, and there's no stopping it. There were those when the automobile came around, they criticized it and they said horse and buggies are plenty good for us. We don't need these machines. There was, once upon a time, we were told that the world would never need more than two computers, right? And so but look what we're able to do now as a result of everybody carrying at least one computer in their pocket, at all times. So I'm part of a certain generation. This technology is moving too fast. You kids get off my lawn perspective. Change is always difficult. But from the future looking back, they're gonna if you're a baby born today and your mom and dad put the new iPhone 15 Max Pro in the crib next to you, that piece of technology that is right up against you will be the worst technology that you'll ever experience going forward. The worst.
It's true.
So the future is going to be real interesting. And you said 20, 30, 40 years we have left. You promised me 100, so that means I got 40.
Yeah, and we're going to enjoy it. We'll have many conversations like this on the way. And I remember when I first gave my daughter a magazine to look at, and the first thing she did was try and skim the pictures over because she got bored of the front cover. And that's when I realized the technology had moved so far beyond us. And that's the way it is. Joe, I'm going to let you go. It's been a pleasure catching up with you. That was amazing. And I know we could talk forever, and this is one of the most serious conversations we've ever had. We're going to geek out next time. And I love the fact that, as always, you're young, you're vibrant, you've got new stuff on the horizon, but you're chilled out, laid back, and enjoying life too. It's an honor to chat with you. Thank you so much.
It's my pleasure, Dave. Thanks.
Amazing. There we go. Joel Comm chatting with us here on Speak on Stage. He's one of those guys that when you first connect with him, you realize that not only does he know more than you, but he's more than happy to share all the very best of it with you. And that's what comes from the best thought leaders. It's not just about what they know. It's about sharing that legacy and helping to get you to the next level as well. And we'll be doing that with more great stars on this show. Do not go anywhere else. Check out the old episodes and we'll teach you how to jump and grow wings on the way down. Thank you for watching. Speak on Stage.